The hardest part is getting things set to write. Um, I go through my day and I'm thinking about the story because the story is what writing is all about. If your story's not compelling, who wants to read it? Um, so I think about different parts of my story. I sit in front of my computer. It gets late at night. Um, the kids are in sleep. The kids are in bed, asleep, and I slap on my headphones, go to my streaming soundtracks.com, and follow my outline, and it starts flowing. The I really like pushing the world away, having just my soundtrack music, and I'm a visual writer. So the when I see the scene in my head, it comes out. I look at my keyboard. I don't look at the screen because I'm seeing it in my head. Really, it's mainly just the soundtracks, unless I'm writing during the day. Um, my schedule is so discombobulated that I have to write when I can sometimes, and if I'm trying to tune out chaos around me, um, or it's a battle scene, I'll throw in my Christian metal and just have me a good old time. That's rain radio usually. The children's imagination of what can be done, though, is the best because they'll put different Legos and different configurations, and you could have Godzilla next to the Black Pearl, and it makes sense to them. So it helps me to peel away stereotypical, this is how things should be, to go, why not have a magical gun that you could cast into that shoots fireballs? That would be just like awesome. When you have a level of technology that you have set and you put your characters in situations, what would they do? How could they achieve certain ends? How could they overcome certain obstacles? Um, so when I think of the gear or the equipment or um, the vehicles or anything that my characters interact with steampunkily, um, it's here's your level of tech that you have. Here is your capabilities. Here is the infusion of magic and what magic can do. In this book or what I have planned for the coming up? Ah, okay. That is, I like the integration of the different type of people types with the steampunk. So whether it be uh, Roscoe's steam enhanced um, iron metallurgy bow that could shoot, you know, half a mile away, um, to the infusing of man and machine like Ben, um, or just the good old fashioned stug that Zarjon has that you can cast into it. It fuels it up. You've got ammo. You've got magic ignition and propellant. That just, and who doesn't love a good tanker You know, who that masterful marvel of steam and power and going down the twin ribbon. It's just, but there's some that is yet to come, and the mixing of technology and magic, not only in defense but also in offense, is going to really play a part. So expect Malex to bring some stuff to the forefront. That goes back to the alternate history. Um, I I like learning lessons from history, and sometimes we as modern man do not take the lessons that we have learned in the past and not make the same mistakes. Um, Steampunk gives you that chance to not make the same mistakes, whether it be uh, DC versus AC, oil versus steam, um, heck, even nuclear. You know, wouldn't it be a wonderful thing to have a steam engine powered by a nuclear fission? You guarantee you'd have a steam engine that would work um, super efficiently. So there's a lot of what if this could happen that is freeing to the imagination. Um, so I I just really like the whole idea. I thought a lot about this, and really, it truly was Firefly. Um, when Mr. Wheaton came out with the mix of sci-fi and western in such a way that engages and the story comes out. It's a wonderful setting to allow a rich story driven by characters. Story is most important because without a good story, you don't have a good book. Um, so that started off the idea of what if I took my fantasy genre that I am most familiar with, add in steampunk, add in a little western, um, and just kind of shake it up a bit and see what happens. And it works. Inspire is a little different than what has really happened to me. I think is more influence. Um, uh, I look at the things I've read, and of course, you've got the grandfather, the pioneer, J.R.R. Tolkien, who started all off. I am led by my faith. Um, there is wonderful, rich stories by some of the more contemporary writers, R.A. Salvatore, Douglas Niles, but also the dystopian guys, George Orwell, Huxley, are really play into the some of the philosophies that I have um, displayed amongst my characters. But more than books, there are also great stories in television and movies. And I am influenced heavily by the the old Doctor Who serials, um, the new Battlestar Galactica, Firefly, and even wonderful storytellers like Brad Bird. Um, uh, these visual storytellers influence the way that I write. I want my reader to connect with seeing the action happen, seeing the description of the landscape or the town or the people. I'm trying to elevate my writing to a more visceral feel where my reader can engage and go, I can see that with my mind's eye. And I think that hopefully makes me a better writer. I like tinkering. I am most content in my own little space if I am taking something apart, seeing how it works, putting it back together and having it work, and then taking that second step, that next step of going, how to make it better, how to make it function better for me in my daily life. Whether that be a device or a tool or even a piece of furniture. And that goes into my house. I am constantly trying to improve the functionality of my house. Excuse me. I like chairs the right size for me. I'm a tall guy. Most chairs don't fit. So I have tinkered and added lifts on some of my chairs. I didn't like my low bed, so I made a high bed. The most frustrating thing I have ever done while writing or reading a book that is about a new world is wondering what's going on. I was reading this series back in the 80s, and after the first whole book, I just had no clue what was going on or where it was. I wanted to see how I could overcome that gap with my reader. I wanted my reader to know this world is new and different, but connect with it in some way. So I invented the chronicler as my medium, my voice, to introduce the world, this new world that I'm in, to my reader. It grew out of that necessity, but as I kept going, it also has become my voice. So it's me talking to the reader. Now, the chronicler is integral into what's happening. He is after all the events of the book. So he is looking back at what happens chapter by chapter. But he will be giving more vignettes, snippets of real everyday life in Roper Maya and Nathmaria. And I think that he is integral to the story. Calamar, warrior. Kale, spy. Mattathias, sage. Mordic, mage. Simon, enigma. Nigel, shadow. My best friends started out this way. Some people you just resonate with. You meet them and you instantly just mesh. Your personalities are harmonic. Being a music guy, I feel harmonies. And some of my friends who have gone on were instant bonds. Um, in less than a week, we were friends forever. And that sounds so BFF, but who cares? Um, there are people that if you open yourself up to, they are friends thick and thin. Of all the people that you've known and loved and lost in Birth of Legends, I think Nigel has the most up his sleeve for the next book, and it will completely surprise people what he's going to be pulling. I am full into this world. Um, I like the setting. It's from all the work that I've done is fairly well fleshed out. The Birth of Legends and Nathmaria Chronicles will be a trilogy. I have two more already outlined, ready to go. First chapter already made of the second book. But I'm also starting a second series, a murder mystery, which I really enjoy murder mysteries. And I'm aiming them at I guess, a little bit younger audience. So it will be accessible to 13 to 18, but it will still be sophisticated enough to engage an adult reader. And it will not be nearly as long as Birth of Legends. So I'm going through the initial stages of publication of my Arcane Investigators, and I'm going to start that series, but that will be an ongoing series. I have in the works that I would really like to put out the RPG version of this. It's hard to know what the characters can do if you don't have basically a character sheet of what they are and what they can do. When I first started reading Lord of the Rings, and I sat down with Fellowship of the Ring, I was 18, and I got through the first 6 chapters, and it was all in the Shire, and everything was green. And I put the book down. I could not finish it. I was going, I don't know what the big deal is. Later on, I picked it back up. Years later, read it again, and I started one right after the other. And I read just as fast as I could. It was a book I could not put down. I'd get off of work, I'd come home and read. I wanted to write a story that would engage people enough to go, man, I am so invested in these guys. I want to see them win, lose, fail, succeed. I want to see these guys do what they do. And so I set out to write that. And I may have learned a little too much from the pioneer. However, the amount of time and energy spent with my characters at the beginning, when things get to the end and the energy and the train is going and you are just flipping pages after page, the emotional climax of the book pays off. Stick with it. You may enjoy the story.